Hello everyone, welcome to Nurse Bestie Explains. Today we start with the Unit 2 from the research, that is the research problem and objectives. Coming to the first one, that is research problem. There are 5 factors to consider to determine that a problem is researchable or not. As we all know, the first step in research is selecting a problem, okay, or question which you want to find the answer. So there are 5 factors to consider to determine that a problem is researchable. To whatever problem we want to study or a question, whether it is researchable or not, to find out this, there are 5 factors. They are the problem existing in the locality or country, but no known solution to the problem. The problem or the question which is bothering you, which is existing in the locality or where you are living, where you are working, or the country, in your country, if that problem is creating lot of children dying with that, or adults suffering with that problem, or you are facing in your workplace, any such type of existing in your locality or country, but for that problem there is no solution is being identified. That kind of problem can be selected. Another factor, the solution can be answered by using statistical methods and techniques. So for that problem, you can do the research. After doing research, that answer you should be able to convey in statistical methods and techniques. In the numerical forms, you should be able to convey. That kind of problem you have to select. Third factor is there are probable solutions, but they are not yet tested. Already for that problem, solutions are there. Probable solutions exist, but they are not yet tested. That kind of problem also you can select and you can test the solutions, whether they are the right one or not. Fourth factor is the occurrence of phenomena requires scientific investigations to arrive at a precise solution. So that occurrence of phenomena that requires a scientific investigation, okay, one by one, stepwise systematic process investigation. That kind of step-by-step investigation is required to arrive at some precise solution. For that purpose also, to prove it scientifically, you can take that problem and do research. Fifth factor is serious needs or problems of the people where it demands research. If you are your own professionals, nursing staff are suffering with any problem, you can take that and find a solution where there is a demand for research, or the place where you are working in that ward, patients are suffering with some illness. For that, there is no solution is been identified till now. You can take that serious problem or a need which needs research. Okay, that also one of the factors. These are the 5 factors for determining the problem which is researchable or not. Next, research objectives. Research problem and research objectives. If you see the research objectives are a specification of the ultimate reason for carrying out research in the first place. Okay, so you start any project, first you have to start with the objectives. After identifying the problem, you should know the objectives, with what objectives you are going to conduct the study. That is very important. So specifying those ultimate reasons for carrying out research is in first place. That is very important step. Okay, stating the objectives. These objectives help in developing a specific list of information needs. Out of this research project, what you are expecting through this research, that you have to specify list of information needs. Only when the researcher knows the problem, if the researcher has good knowledge and they have done in-depth study about that problem, they will have an idea. Researcher knows the problem that management wants to solve. Can the research project be designed to provide the pertinent information? Okay, so for these purposes we need to have research objectives. Characteristics and source of a research problem. What a research problem or a problem statement, what characteristics it should have, or the sources. First one is specific. Okay, first characteristic is specific. The problem should be specifically tested. Exactly, specifically the problem which you want to study, that has to be tested. It is one of the characteristic. Measurable. The research problem which you are going to select, it should be measurable. And after the research, you should be able to represent the result in numerical form by using the statistics and numbers, graphs and charts. Okay, so it should be measurable. It is easy to measure by using research instruments, apparatus or equipment. For example, blood pressure. There is a equipment for sphygmomanometer, an equipment with which you can measure the blood pressure. In the same way, the research problem which you are going to study, it should be measurable. Okay, there should be some scale to measure. For example, pain rating scale. Okay, by facial expression, pain rating scale is there. So 1 to 10, the score is given by the intensity of pain the patient is suffering, or by facial expression you can assess the pain. Like that, whatever feeling or whatever problem of the patient or anything which you are going to study, that should be measurable. Okay, that is one of the characteristic. Next one is achievable. Okay, the data are achievable using correct statistical tools to arrive at precise results. Okay, in research you will also study statistics. Okay, to prove your data, whatever data you collected in the research, to prove that and represent in numerical forms, you use statistical tools. Okay, so the data whatever are achievable using correct statistical tools to arrive at precise results. To reach the results, you should be able to use these tools. So result should be achievable. That is also one characteristic. Specific, measurable, achievable. Fourth one is realistic. Real results are attained because they are gathered scientifically. You are following all the steps from 1 to 10 or more than that, like research problem, selecting the objectives, then hypothesis, specifying the variables, dependent, independent variables, sample, population, all that you follow a scientific method. Okay, so by using that you gather a lot of information and do research, and not manipulated or manual. So manipulations, all that should not happen. Okay, realistic results you should attain at the end of the research. So research study should be realistic. Last one is time bound. Time frame is required in every activity, because the shorter completion of the activity, the better. As early as you possible, or if you plan a study for 6 months or 3 months, within that period you should be able to complete your research or the project work. So shorter the completion or the activity, the better results you will get. If you, instead of lagging it for 1 year, 2 years, taking long time for collecting the data and bringing out the results, the purpose will not be served. So these are the 5 characteristics of a research problem: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. Next, sources of research problem. So from where? For example, you have no idea what to select for research project. Okay, what are the sources of research problem? From where you can get an idea on what topic you have to conduct research. First one is specialization of the researcher. The person who is going to conduct research, whether they are specialized in which department or category. If you take nursing, you are a pediatric nurse. You are specialized in a pediatric health nursing or child health nursing. You can select it because you will have more knowledge about the child related problems, disease conditions, the pain what they suffer, different disease conditions or psychological problems, school related problems, society related, behavioral problems. So you can select any topic from that, your specialization depends upon. Okay, like that, from the specialization of the researcher, it is a hint you can select from that. And current and past researchers, based upon the current past researches conducted by the nurses or nursing experts, you can select the topic of your interest. Then recommendations from thesis, dissertations and research journals. When you read research journals or dissertations or theses of others, from their recommendations, if they recommend that in-depth study has to be done in this topic, and you can conduct more about the symptoms or diagnostic tests, like that, if any in their research, if they have given, at the end even you also have to write recommendations after the completion of study. what you recommend. But from those recommendations, you can take the source and select a research problem. Then original and creative ideas of the researcher. The researcher, if they are willing to do from their previous experience, originally what the thoughts they got from their experience or creative ideas out of the problems daily they are facing. From that also, based on the problems met in the locality and country, they can select the topic. These are the sources of a research problem. Next, identification of research problem. How to identify? Identification of research problem is the first step in a scientific method for conducting a research. As you know the steps of research process, identification of research problem is the first step. To initiate a research, to start any research, there should be pre-occurred ideas that generated the necessity for the research to be carried out. To start the research, there should be some pre-occurred idea. The person who want to study conduct the research, they will have pre-occurred ideas which has generated the need for research to be carried out. Okay. For example, any of your family members suffered with cancer and they were unable to prevent the complications, unable to manage, and that person has died, or any family member you have lost. So that pain of losing a family member with cancer or complications of the cancer will motivate you to conduct research how to nicely manage complications, how to handle the changes which come after the chemotherapy, like hair loss and loss of eyebrows, all that, how to manage, how to handle that situation, psychology of the patient, all that will motivate you. So any pre-occurred idea should be generated, or necessity, need to do research has to be carried out. The ideas are developed while going through literatures, or anyone who has the habit of using library, going to the libraries and studying previous researches, literatures, discourses with experts, any discussion with experts about day-to-day problems, or about your field like pediatric nursing, psychiatric nursing, anything you are discussing with your teacher, any suggestions you can take from your teacher or experts, and you can do research on that. And continuation of activities related to the subject matter. The subjects which you are dealing with, you are studying in your masters or BSc nursing, any subject, any disease which attracts your attention, you can select that condition also for the research. Like that you can select with that. These ideas develop into some specific topics that will be interesting or rewarding if investigated. So like this kind of ideas will develop into some specific topics which will be interesting and rewarding if they are investigated in depth by considering it to do the research. These topics generally called problems. We call these topics as problems for conducting research. Problem statement or the research problem. Like this you have to identify the research problem. Then next, some guidelines for selecting the problems. Some guidelines for selecting the problems. How to select problem? There are some guidelines. The problem should be such in which the researcher may be deeply interested. You should have interest, or you cannot force the person to conduct research. They should have interest to do the research. So deep interest should be there. The problem should be related with the chain of thinking. Okay, it should be related with the chain of thinking. Stray problems can be misled. The whole research project will be problem. Okay, chain of thinking should be there. The problem selected should not necessarily be the new one. It need not be new one. Already whoever conducted research, by taking their recommendations into consideration, you can take up the topic. Okay, it can be old also. It may be old problem, or one on which work has already been done, that is verification of old problem may be equally useful. Going in depth into the old problem and giving clarity also, like that kind of studies also you can select. The problem should be within manageable limits. That is, it should not be too comprehensive. It should not be too complicated. You should be able to manage and limit, like a population or the sample size which you are selecting. You should be able to handle it. So manageable limits only you should select that kind of topics. So these are the guidelines for selecting the problem. After the research problem, next one is determining the objectives. Objectives are very important. After the problem statement is selected, determining the objectives is very important step. Objective is, what is objective? What is objective? The meaning is clear, concern and declarative sentence. You have to clearly declare in the form of sentence which provide direction to investigate solution or variable. To find out the solution, this objective should give declarative sentence which should give direction to the researcher to conduct the study. That is called as objective. Characteristics of object. How a objective should be. What are the characteristics? The objectives of a project should be SMART. Okay. So the full forms for SMART is, they should be S for specific, clear about what, where, when and how the situation will be changed. Okay. You should be very specific, clear about what, when, where and how the situation will be changed. S for specific. M for measurable. Okay, the whatever you are going to study, those should be, that elements should be measurable, able to quantify the targets and benefits. You should be able to measure them by using the statistics in the form of numbers and tables. You should be able to show the results. So manageable or measurable. Okay, next A, achievable, able to attain the objectives, knowing the resources and capacities at the disposal of the community. Those what you want to select or do research, those should be achievable objectives you have to frame. R for realistic. R for realistic, able to obtain the level of change reflected in the objective. You should be able to obtain the level of change which is reflected in the objective. T for time bound, stating the time period in which they will each be accomplished. Stating the time period also. This study will be conducted for so and so period with this much sample size. Like that, you should clearly state the time period in which they will be achieved. Okay, accomplished. The results will be accomplished. So SMART. These are the characteristics. SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. These are the characteristics of objectives. Next, types of objectives, very important. You have to write this in the research. You have to frame the objectives for whatever research problem you select. A and B, two types are there. Broad objectives or general objectives. General objectives and specific objectives. Coming to the general objective, states what is to be achieved by the study in general terms. General objectives state that what has to be achieved at the end of research study, in the final step, what you have to attain, okay, achieve by the end of the study. In general terms you have to state. Usually only one per study related to core problem. Only one general objective will be there, that is related to the core problem or topic of the study. Shows target population and place. Population and place, everything will be mentioned in the general objective. Example is, to determine the factors associated with increased number of diarrhea cases among under 5 children in X village. Okay, like this you have to formulate the general objective. Okay, determine the factors associated with increased number of diarrhea. Why the increased cases of diarrhea are there under 5 children in that village. Okay, any village. Okay, to determine the factors, that is your topic of the study. Like this you can formulate the general objective. Second type of objective is specific objective. It is short in term and small to focus. Okay, small objectives, short in term and small to focus general objective can be broken. This objective can break down into small short terms. In small, general objective completed by specific objective and describe the variables that are measured. In your research study, the small variables which are going to measure, those you mention in the specific objectives. By the study, several in one study use action verbs. Action verbs, actually what you do, that you should mention in specific objective. Example, to find out methods used for excreta disposal. this is related to same problem, diarrhea. Okay, to find out the methods what those people are using to excreta disposal of those diarrhea cases. Okay, that is one specific objective. Next one is to find out methods used for water treatment. What kind of water they are consuming and what methods they are using to purify that water. Okay, maybe that is causing the diarrhea. So to find out what type of water purifying methods they are using, that is one specific objective. To determine the feeding habits of the under 5, what feeding habits though in that village for under 5 children their parents are using. Okay, so that like that you have to three specific objectives are formed, nothing but simply what exactly you want to study. Okay, those in short forms you have written. To find out methods used for excreta disposal, to find out methods used for water treatment, and to determine the feeding habits of the under 5 children. These are the general and specific objectives. These are the two types of objectives. So this is about determining the objectives. So in this video we have discussed with the research problem. Okay, in this research problem we have seen what is research problem, 5 factors which you have to consider. 5 factors to consider in research objectives, characteristics of a research problem, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. Sources of research problem, identification of the research problem, and then we have started with some guidelines for selecting the problem and types of objectives, and SMART, characteristics of the objective. SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time bound. So this is about unit 2, research problem and determining the objectives. Like, share and subscribe to my channel. Share with your friends also. Any queries, please comment in the comment section. Thank you.